Guys, welcome to round number 6 of Prague International Chess Festival 2026. Jordan Forest is still the leader. Let's take a look at his game against David Navarra in round number 6. David is having a successful event as well. He beat Niederbeck, he beat Parham, and he plays Hans and Niederbeck next to games with white pieces, so has a chance to actually strike and beat those two. So here David played bishop c5 and Jordan plays knight d2, attacking the rook. Knight b5, knight b1 takes, and now we are going to an equal endgame where, okay, it looks like black have a pass pawn, but in reality, I mean, it's not so dangerous. So here players played for a while and then agreed to a draw. So h6, king f6, king f5, pawn takes, king h6, king f5, and soon the game ended with lone kings on the board. In the second game of the round, Hans Niemann was playing against Vincent Keimer. And that was a great opportunity for Hans to get an advantage. Actually, yes, the more computer thinks, it actually says it's a dead draw. Yeah, so here we got two rooks versus two rooks. Pawns are equal. It's just a matter of time when players would have agreed to draw. They played for quite a while, but I mean, in reality, I mean, this rook and f4 holds both pawns, so it's really tough. So takes, king c3. And now, okay, I mean, potentially white got some chances to promote this pawn, but in reality, just not enough. So they played for a while and then agreed to draw. Two more games finished in a draw, and we have a main dish for the last game to analyze. And this main dish is Gukesh Dommaraju versus Aravindh. So Aravindh is not having good tournaments recently. He actually got a lot of rating decreases in the past few months, from 2700 now to 2681. So yes, not successful couple of months, and Gukesh is not having a good tournament either. He lost to Jordan, he lost to Niederbeck, now he plays Aravindh with white. Let's see what happened in this game. So we have c5, knight f3, g6, early dragon, d5, and we transposed sort of Alapin positions, knight c6, d4, and f6. Immediate f6 takes, bishop g7, putting pressure on e5, e6, all looks very logical, c4. d4 is a bit tough move to make, just because knight d2, and you're about to lose everything. So it's really important to keep the pressure going here. So knight c3, d takes c4, takes, rook d1 check, king c8, knight d4. We got to the following endgame where probably a lot of players would have soon agreed to maybe a draw, but on this level players usually play for a little while until more pieces are off the board. And sometimes, you know, when they play those positions, they get some chances. So knight d6, knight g5, attacking the6, so a bit inconvenient. Bishop e5, knight f7, attacking the bishop, attacking the rook. And now bishop d4, sacrificing in exchange. King d7, knight d4, c takes d4, knight h8, rook h8, and b3. Black's position is still better because of these two pawns. White are still undeveloped. So c3, bishop e3, trying to attack. Rook c1, king e6, takes. So he decided not to play bishop f4 because it was too risky, rook c8, and suddenly, even if you played g4, I mean, knight d7 is good enough, and then knight d5, knight b4, and it just would be all over. So bishop d4, knight d4, two knights, king d5, rook c3, a5. Why have an extra pawn for two knights? But doesn't really help them. Takes, rook b3. There is also idea of going a b3 and then rook c6, king c6, and rook d4, transpose into an equal endgame. So we got rook b8, h5, b5, takes, and rook g3. I mean, in reality, it is a draw. Like there are just not too many chances to win this one. So king goes to c4, rook c1, king b4, rook b1, king a4, rook b2, knight e5, f4. Knight c4. Suddenly, knights are getting closer to the game. Rook f2, rook e8, king h2, knight e2, attacking the rook, and now the blunder. Knight e3, and it turns out computer doesn't even see knight e3 for a little while. But the idea of knight e3 is quite simple. Let's say random move a3, there is rook h8. The only move is to play rook h3 and now knight g4. The only move is to go this way and now knight f2. And of course, I mean, you eventually end up checkmating the king g1, and you can play rook c8. And then rook c1 is just simply unstoppable. So, knight f3, rook e2, knight g4, king g3, rook e2, and we transpose to a winning rook endgame, king h4, pawn goes to b4, really important move. Let's say if you take immediately rook g3 and it is a draw, so, I mean, you know, it's just like one move and it looks like, you know, it is a draw, but then, you know, you play this b4, rook g3 doesn't really work because we are first to promote the pawn and win the game, so rook g3, rook a2, and now with one extra tempo, so what would have happened, let's say, here, this rook g3, rook f4, there's rook g4, it looks like still same position, king g5, b3, f5, and then f takes g6. So while here, and then white make an extra move, rook a2, let's say this, and now there's just like one extra tempo. And also you can just play rook f1, king g5, and king a3. And then that's exactly how the game ended, by the way, b3. So what we saw is rook a2, rook f2, rook f1, and the game was over. So yeah, Aravindh perfectly perfect play in the end, and he delivered another upset. And Gukesh is, unfortunately for himself, you can't even see him here in the standings, he is in the last place. Hans is half a point ahead of him. Then we have Najibek Kubov, which I believe you see on the screen, yes. Aravindh 2.5 Vincent, Parham, David Anton, David Navarra, Najibek, and Jordan is still first, half a point ahead of Najibek and David Navarra. Wait, Jordan lost? Okay, I mean that was, yeah, I was like, man, I forgot that he lost. He plays so well. So yeah, tomorrow, Najibek Jordan, that's a big one. Aravindh Najibek, Parham Gukesh, Vincent David, and David Navarra, Hans Smoke Niemann. So let's see how it goes. A lot of interesting games to analyze, and I'll see you in the recap of round number 7. Bye bye.